Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an incredibly shocking and nerve-wracking story for you. It's about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one man went to uncover the truth. Imagine discovering that the person you love most in the world might be hiding something so devastating that it could destroy your entire life together. Well, that's exactly what happened in today's story. So, sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for I caught my wife's affair with the butler and it got worse when I fired him. 10 years into our marriage, I became very wealthy thanks to the percentage of ownership I had in my father's company. So, I bought my loyal and lovely wife a mansion for us to live in, which came with a butler who was prepared to take care of all the undesirable chores. My work schedule was pretty spontaneous because I could visit the office as I pleased or work from home. Our marriage and life together for the next 20 years after that were blissful other than some odd moments and occurrences. One day, I arrived home from work to find the butler with my wife, standing side by side doing dishes. She was drying, the easier part, but I didn't understand why she was willingly doing any of the chores and standing so close to him. Their elbows touched a few times, and I coughed to let them know I was there. My wife jumped, but he just moved away from her a little bit. She said she felt bad he was in here all by himself, so she wanted to keep him company and help a bit. She was so cheery and warm, I couldn't tell if she had any ill intentions. Another time, I came home to find her lounging in the pool with the butler gardening and staring at her. They laughed a few times before I came out to greet them. It was clear that they were at least friends, but I didn't like how friendly they were. I thought I was just being controlling and jealous, so I accepted that my wife was friends with and cared about the butler. What was the harm in that if I trusted my wife of 17-ish years at this point? We spent every moment I wasn't busy together. I loved her, and I could tell she loved me. Yet another odd occurrence was when I walked upstairs to find the butler closing our bedroom door. It had been hours since I was upstairs because my wife was still sleeping. It was odd, and I asked him if she called for him. He jumped when I spoke and turned around sheepishly, although I could tell he wanted to act normal. He stammered and said she called to ask him for some water. I accepted that for a moment, but reminded him that he was not to enter our bedroom or open the door. He didn't know what to say besides, "Yes, sir." He walked away quickly, and I opened the door to find my wife in her panties drinking water. I asked her if the butler saw her like that, and she said no, she just took off her robe again. I was skeptical. I was heavily considering hiring a new butler. It seemed like she was flirty with him, at least, and I didn't like that he was most likely in our bedroom with my wife in her panties. Before I could terminate him, I saw him smelling my wife's panties. I know, it's really bad, really ballsy. I caught him on the security camera. I told him that was unacceptable and made my wife really uncomfortable. I didn't even tell her about it, but when I told him she was uncomfortable, he instantly looked like he didn't believe me. That ticked me off. I told him he was fired. I hired someone else, this time a female maid since I knew my wife was straight. I decided that even if I was jealous and protective, it was a smart decision. 1 week later, I arrived home to find the maid outside gardening. I went upstairs and found the butler I fired coming out of our bedroom once again, except this time he was dressed in regular, but still kind of formal, clothes. He looked at me like he was amused, but inconvenienced because I was there and saw him. I asked him what he was doing in my house again, and he told me my wife hired him for something else. He said it with such nerve, all I wanted to do was punch his smug face. I told him to leave and not to come back, no matter what my wife told him. As he walked away, I went into the bedroom and found my wife wearing a skimpy little nightgown. I asked her what was happening, and she looked nervous. She said I was home earlier today than the week before, and I told her she always knew my schedule was spontaneous and not to change the subject. She turned red and told me I was freaking out over nothing. I asked her why she couldn't explain why she was here in her skimpy nightgown after the butler I fired just came out of the room. She was pretty stunned and said she hired him back for things around the house the maid couldn't handle. I asked if one of those things was helping her with her personal plumbing and lubrication. Her jaw dropped, and she couldn't look me in the eye. Her cheeks must have been burning, they were so red. It looked like blood vessels in her face were showing up. It was crazy. Her face never turned that red in all the 30 years we were together. She finally said in a weak voice that if he did help her with that, it was nothing against me. I told her that it most definitely was against me because she belonged to me. We were life partners, and only I was permitted to help her with her plumbing and lubrication. She said she wouldn't ask him to help her again, and asked me not to worry about it anymore. I asked if that meant she was admitting to sleeping with him, and she was silent. She nodded yes very minimally, with her eyes watering. Then she started speaking really fast about how it didn't matter, she just considered it a job, nothing meaningful that would take away from our marriage, and she needed me to forget about it so that nothing changed between us. I told her this was most certainly going to change things between us, and it already took everything away from our marriage. I told her we were over, called her a name, and told her to get out of my home. I was extremely careful to get a post-nup signed after I came into more money. It's not that I didn't trust my wife at the time, it was because my father and I were lawyers, which means I couldn't ever be made the fool. So my wife sorrowfully packed her bags. She had too many bags for someone with nowhere to go. The butler came to pick her up in the car he afforded with the paychecks I gave him. They stayed in a motel where the butler had been staying after I fired him. My wife had so many belongings, clothes, that she had to leave some of it behind, which I immediately told the maid to sell on eBay, or keep for herself. They stayed in that motel as long as they could, but their money ran out without me signing the checks. They tried to contact me, individually, blaming each other for what occurred and asking me to take them back into the mansion. It was gratifying that they were turning on each other and failing to survive or do anything with their lives. Even to this day, my ex still tries to ask me for help and gives me some updated sob stories about where she is in life. It is not glamorous, it's far from what she was accustomed to with me. I've become something like Bruce Wayne in town, and I have no complaints. Even though her betrayal hurt, I knew from the moment I found out that I could recover from it. Not because of my money, but because I know what love is. And it wasn't that. OP, I am sorry your wife couldn't see what a great life she had with you. I honestly feel like the attention and sexual tension she experienced with the butler was too much for her immature brain to handle. It was a man in close proximity to her that she shouldn't sleep with, no matter how much he would have been willing. He obviously paid her attention, and when their friendship developed, she couldn't keep her legs closed. I believe she was egotistical and materialistic, and didn't have the respect she should for her providing and loyal husband. What this type of woman needs to understand is that resisting temptation pays off in the end. No man should be able to convince them to disrespect themselves and their spouses by breaking their vows and trust. I'm not sure what happened in your wife's head, but we are all here for you to offer support. Now let's get into our second story for today. One fateful day, when my wife went to work, she forgot her phone. I took the opportunity to check it, and was appalled by what I found. I should have known what was going on, because my wife, 25, was extremely excited about going to work suddenly. She said it was because she became in charge of a business task that she really enjoyed. It was something like designing different abstract images each day for a newsletter. I, 28, believed her. She was a good girl, and I was proud of her for earning us additional income for living expenses. The only other dead giveaway was that she didn't want to have sex as often, but then I knew why. It was because she was sexting with a coworker, sending pictures, and talking about the sex they had. It was disgusting. I drove to her work immediately. I backed up all the stuff for her phone, because although she wasn't getting it back, it was going to be deactivated. I brought it with me, and started by showing the receptionist, who I only met once before. Then I asked her if I could get a guest pass to go have lunch with my wife. She giggled and gave me one. She knew I was sarcastically infuriated, and this was going to be a heck of a show. She followed me in, putting up a "be back in 5 minutes" sign that she scribbled out. Everyone looked up from their desks to see me. I must have looked determined and angry. I asked everyone to gather around, and they did. I said I had some news to share about somewhere they all knew well. They were all sparkly-eyed with gossip endorphins when they found out who I was talking about. People started looking around for AP and my wife. AP came out of the bathroom just then, and we all looked at him. I announced that there was a guy who had the audacity to sleep with my wife. Some of the coworkers started shouting out insults at him. Among these, he was called despicable. Just then, my wife's head peeked out of her office. When she saw everyone looking at her, she went back inside and shut the door. Now everyone knew what my wife and AP looked like naked. Some girls whispered that they knew something was going on between them. Coworkers took the time to print/draw signs that said slanderous insults and taped them on my wife's office door. I thanked them for their creativity and left, wondering where the boss was that allowed all this to happen. When my wife got back to the house, I already had the locks changed. She took the stuff I let her have to AP's house. They both quit their jobs that day and walked out shamefully. In our town, there was just one major employer for like half the population. So when I shared with people the things my wife talked about and took pictures of, everyone in the area knew about it or saw it. It didn't take long for them to decide to move about 500 miles west. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Since she moved out of state, our divorce was made final through the mail. She didn't ask me for anything, thank God, but I would have been able to prove her infidelity anyway. She was done with me and the embarrassing past she was trying to forget. I felt the same way about her and couldn't be happier with the choice I made. OP, I am sorry your wife behaved like an untrustworthy office cheater. It's hard to get as low as a person who cheats on their spouse while utilizing their trust to earn income for the family. What are they even working for if not to improve the life they have at home? If they honestly believe the person they start an affair with at work or anywhere is better than the spouse they have at home, they're wrong. The grass may seem greener on the other side. Finding a person with a new set of features, issues, habits, goals, and interests is completely unnecessary. It is only a shame when a marriage or union ends because one spouse thought they found better in someone else or just thought they could effortlessly manage two serious relationships. Really, the only grounds for divorce, the proper way to end a marriage, is when one person absolutely cannot or will not honestly communicate with the other person. Thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate your bravery and bold confrontation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more unforgettable. Welcome back, everyone! Today, we're diving into a story that highlights the struggles of parenting and the fine line between fairness and discipline. Imagine being caught in the middle of a sibling rivalry where one child's desire for equality turns into threats and chaos. This is a gripping tale of a mother who faced a tough decision when her daughter threatened to destroy her brother's belongings if he didn't share. Let's unravel this nerve-wracking story titled, "My Daughter Threatened to Destroy My Son's Belongings If He Didn't Share, So I Grounded Her. Am I the Bad Parent?" Let's get started. We recently got 2 horses. My younger daughter, a young teen, wanted them as she's been learning to ride. My older daughter, nearly adult, was against them. She's much more apprentice-y and didn't want to deal with the mess and chores that come with horses. But we told her it wouldn't be something she'd have to deal with, and that her younger sister promised to take care of all of it. Well, recently, the older daughter's been disrespectful at home and staying out too late, and her grades have been slipping. We warned her to shape up, but last week when we heard that she'd been needlessly insulting her younger sister while I was out running errands, I told her that she'd be cleaning out the stable each day for the next week, as punishment, and that her sister would get a break. She got upset and offended and said we promised she'd never have to go in there or scoop horse poop. I said I promised it wouldn't be one of your chores, of course. But obviously, punishment is supposed to be something outside of your normal chores and something you won't like, and I thought it was perfectly fair here. She's been doing it for 3 days now, but seems very resentful of our broken promise, acting very disgusted, and keeps begging to get out of the rest of it. But I said I thought it was fair, and she was overreacting. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You bought 2 horses for your younger daughter and promised the older daughter she wouldn't have to be involved in their care. You broke your promises. There were plenty of adequate and appropriate punishments available you could have given your daughter for staying out late and letting her grade slip. Are you deliberately trying to stir up resentment between the 2 sisters? Because this is how you get resentment between 2 sisters. Exactly. Horses are a pretty big gift. Does your oldest child get the same treatment as your youngest child? It could be resentment building up and causing her to act out, and being forced to take care of her sister's huge gift will only worsen the resentment. I was wondering the same. Horses are a huge gift. After the purchase price, there's still upkeep, vet bills, farriers, tech, and food, and not just 1 horse, but 2. My child used to ride, and even leasing a horse cost a small fortune, but buying 2? OP, have you given the older daughter a comparable gift? This whole story reeks of favoritism. I bet money the older one hasn't gotten anything but increased chores, so the precious perfect golden child doesn't have a thing to do. And I need more information about who said she's been needlessly insulting to her younger sister. Was it the younger sister tattling? And what is needlessly insulting? Is there such a thing as needfully insulting? And isn't that part of sibling squabbles, being needlessly insulting? And I'm sorry should suffice for that indiscretion, in my honest opinion. Your oldest daughter isn't the golden child, obviously, so you want her to be Cinderella. I, 28 male, have this friend, Charlotte, 29 female. Charlotte and I go way back. We were at a bar one night, and we just happened to get into a small argument about something personal. So, we spent a few minutes just bitterly drinking and not talking to each other when this weird guy walked up between us and started saying awful things to her. Charlotte kept glancing at me, and by the expression on her face, I could tell that she was completely frozen and wanted me to help her out. However, I was still bitter about our little disagreement, so I turned away from her, pulled out my phone, and surfed the web. That guy talked to Charlotte for about 5 minutes and said the weirdest stuff. I couldn't help but glance back at Charlotte, and it looked like she was almost about to burst into tears. I decided that enough was enough, and I told the guy to take a hike. We got into a verbal fight, but the guy eventually left. Once we were sure that the guy had left for good, and he wasn't just standing around waiting outside, I walked Charlotte back home. She just said passive-aggressive stuff like, "I hope you enjoyed yourself, and it's a good thing you took your sweet time." When we returned to her apartment, she was still angry at me. Am I the idiot? Oh God, you are the idiot. You held so much power in the situation, and you decided to use it to let your friend remain terrified. You intentionally used this to hurt her, not just petty normal fighting, but to allow someone else to abuse her actively. This could have put her in danger, and she knew that. She knew that you were okay with her being verbally abused while you actively decided not to help. Yeah, you are the idiot. I cannot say enough times, you are the idiot. When a woman gives you the pleading, "Get me out of here" stare, you do it, period, no matter how upset you are with her at the moment. The instant a creep harasses her, and she signals you, you help. Heck, even if you don't know her, and she's being clearly harassed, step in. This is how bad things happen, because no one steps in. The actual heck, dude, did you really need the whole internet to tell you you're the idiot here? You're her friend, and you just watched that happen, and listened? I dealt your friends much longer. I hope your mild argument with Charlotte was worth losing a friendship over. You broke so many friend codes by doing that. Who needs enemies with a friend like you? My daughter, kindergartner, has some severe food intolerances. Eating the wrong thing frequently ends in a hospital visit. She has snack time at school, where the kids bring in their own snacks. I found a really fun snack for her online that she can actually eat, and I've been sending that in with her for months. On Tuesday, when I opened her bag, I found that the snack was there untouched, so I asked her why. She told me it was too tough for her to open. I asked her about the previous weeks, and she told me that her teacher used to help her, but doesn't anymore. I encouraged her to ask her teacher the next day. The next day, the snack was still unopened, and when I asked her about it, she told me that the teacher told her she needed to learn to open her snacks at snack time all by herself. So, I sent the teacher an email explaining that the snack is quite tough to open, even for adults sometimes, and that it would be super helpful if she could help my daughter open her snack when she's unable to do so. Otherwise, she has an 8-hour school day with only her lunchtime to eat. I was nice about it, but you better believe it did make me a bit angry that she'd rather let a kid go without a snack while all the other kids ate one than help a young child open a snack. I picked her up on Thursday, and she still had an unopened snack. At this point, I called the teacher to ask what was going on, and she said that their goal for the last few months of kindergarten was to promote independence, and that she couldn't do that if they had to hold the kid's hand at every turn. She said it might help if I sent my kid in with a normal snack instead of such a bizarre, difficult to open one. She's very aware of my daughter's food intolerances. At this point, I politely thanked her and called the principal, asking him to move my daughter to a different classroom. I said that it was very inappropriate to emphasize that my daughter's snacks weren't normal enough, given that she could not live a normal life. I wish I could give her some Cheetos or a pack of cookies like the other kids get, but I can't, and I just wanted my daughter to have something a little bit more fun when all the other kids were eating those things. She moved rooms, but her previous teacher sent me a message about how I've really made things difficult over a snack. Apparently, they've started an investigation and are monitoring how she interacts with the kids. Two of the moms that she knows better than me commented in the moms group chat that the way the teacher was treated in regards to this is completely unfair, and that a child's food issue shouldn't be their teacher's issue to deal with. So, am I the idiot? Should I just send in a different snack? Edit. I asked a couple of times why I can't open the snack before school. For some reason, the school policy is that the snack has to be a single-serve item in a sealed package and not in a Tupperware container, and it won't allow repackaging. Also, kindergartners are not allowed to carry scissors, no exceptions. Not the idiot. If they're making requirements of how a snack is packaged, then they're responsible for ensuring said packaging is open for the child if the child has difficulties opening it, regardless of food intolerances or allergies. This has nothing to do with teaching kids independence. Yeah, I don't think letting a kid miss out on the snack time that everyone else gets when her mother gets her a snack that agrees with the school policy teaches anything other than discouraging her from asking for help in the future. This teacher sounds lazy or entitled. I can't believe some parents are taking her side. Also, for the teacher to contact you afterward and complain about your concerns was really unprofessional. I teach high school students who need help with opening stuff sometimes or fixing things, and sometimes I ask them for help too. While I understand the need for teaching independence, I feel like this was a weird hill to die on due to dietary restrictions. Also, I hope you've screenshotted the conversation of the mothers moaning and shared that with the principal, as that shows the teacher's been gossiping. A coworker started to develop feelings a month into knowing me. Let's call him Gray. It may not be something too deep, so I was flattered. I told him I wasn't interested since I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. A month after this rejection, Gray asked me to be his girlfriend. Again, I rejected it. He said it was cool, but he'd appreciate it if I didn't cut him off. I didn't, as he was a nice friend to have. I had to reiterate to him more than once after this that there was no chance I was reciprocating the feelings at all. One day, one of my closer coworkers let me know that Gray would ask her what my plans for the day were, and if I had any, he'd ask her where I'd be going and who I'd be with. He'd also ask her if I was hanging around any other male coworkers. One time when we were out to lunch with our team, our boss gave us the rest of the day off. That meant we'd be free to go home or hang out after lunch. I told everyone I'd be off home, as I was too tired. He offered to bring me home, and I declined. He snapped and started almost begging me to bring me home, but I just kept declining. He said then, "Fine, let me book you a taxi," and proceeded to type my address correctly when I knew for a fact that I never gave him my address. I was majorly uncomfortable at this point. He's done weirder things over the past year, stalking my family on social media, memorizing usernames of my closer friends on IG. He even found an old account I wasn't using anymore, shipping products he bought online directly to my address, even getting in a taxi and following me home. When I confronted him about it, he said he was just ensuring I was safe. Last week, while preparing to go home, it started to rain, so he insisted on bringing me home on his motorcycle. He followed me around the office saying, "Please let me bring you home." We were around other coworkers, but I snapped at him and told him to screw off and leave me alone in a relatively high voice. A coworker who was aware of the stories I told above overheard and told me I didn't have to react that way. I talked to a non-coworker friend about it, and he told me that this might be Gray's way of winning me over. Now I'm worried that I'm just viewing him as annoying and stalkerish because I didn't reciprocate the feelings and went off on him when he was being kind. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I'd say report him to HR. Stay away from him. He thinks he's Superman. See what he has on. That's not a cape. That's a frigging red flag. Also, screw that idiot coworker who told you not to react that way. They obviously don't understand or care about your situation if they know the stories and expect you to always be calm. Majorly angry at that scene extra. Anyways, report him. Tell your family about him so that they can be aware and beware of him and his presence. Get a dog if you don't have one. Keep some self-defense stuff. This could escalate as time goes by. Do not give him a chance. This. OP, you're being stalked. Go to HR. Let them know you only want him to talk to you about work. He's not to offer you a ride home. If you see him follow you home or near your house, you will get a restraining order. Tell them if the company can't handle him, you're going to the police. And before you go to HR, I would write down everything that's happened, even if you don't remember the dates. Then I'd make a copy for them and for you. The most concerning part of this story is that he knows your address, but you never told him. Following you home is unacceptable and grounds for a restraining order in some jurisdictions. I'm sure he thinks he's winning you over, but that doesn't make it okay. This is way over the line, not just some awkward workplace flirting. Oh, I doubt he thinks he's winning her over. At this point, it's just pressure to get her to break and to give in while making that effort to be seen as having good intentions. The scene with the taxi was a power move. I know where you live and I need to illustrate that you don't get your own choice here. Either way, I know you're home. OP, you're in a very dangerous situation. You need to make HR aware and start documenting these instances so you have evidence to take to the police. This is going to get much, much worse before it gets better. Update. I've told my coworker, the one he asked about my plans, if she would support me in bringing this to HR. But it turns out she's already kind of tipped them off at his behavior. By this, I mean she's mentioned it vaguely to a friend from HR because she didn't want to get ahead of me. And HR said that the complaint had to come from me for them to be able to do something about it. So she would be supporting me in filing a complaint. Thank you all for your concern and for pulling me out of downplaying the situation. My son, Henry, divorced his wife, Rachel, a year ago. Their divorce wasn't exactly messy, but it wasn't easy either. I stay in contact with Rachel for my granddaughter's sake. My granddaughter's a preteen and Rachel also has another daughter, Amy, 3 years older than my granddaughter, who's not my son's child. She was from a past relationship Rachel had. Now, the thing is, Amy grew up calling me grandma for pretty much her whole life. I treated her exactly the same as I did my biological granddaughter. I'd always take candy for both of them, give them both a little bit of pocket money and hugs and love, and still do love Amy as much as I do my granddaughter. As far as I'm aware, she's my second granddaughter. When my son and his wife divorced, I stayed in contact with his now ex-wife to contact my granddaughter, and Amy has her own mobile phone. I also have her phone number and stay in contact with her occasionally. She still calls me grandma as well. I didn't think this would be a problem. However, last week when it was Amy's birthday, I gave Rachel some money to buy her a present for me. She was thankful, bought her a gift, wrapped it, and sent me a picture of her opening it. Later that day, my son came around to visit me, and my phone rang. Amy called to say thank you for your birthday present. My son told me he found it inappropriate for me to talk to his ex-wife and her daughter when she was not my granddaughter. He said I have absolutely no reason to be in contact with either of them, as I see my biological granddaughter regularly, and that she's the only whose family. So, his ex-wife and Amy, who are no longer family, have no reason for me to be in contact with them. I disagree, as I only speak to Rachel about my granddaughter, and I speak to Amy as, for the last 10 years, I've been treating her exactly the same as my biological granddaughter. It would be unfair now to no longer have contact with her, after so long. Am I the idiot for staying in contact with them both? I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I never discuss my son with either of them. I simply check in and see how they are. Not the idiot. He's been in this girl's life for 10 years, and he's not staying in touch, and doesn't seem to care or worry about her. That should be the issue here. Be careful he doesn't decide to not let you see your other granddaughter, just because he doesn't agree with you. Your son is a major idiot though. Amy's been a significant part of your lives for 10 years, and your son is upset that you still talk to her and treat her with kindness, instead of dropping her out of your life entirely, as though she doesn't matter at all. Is he demanding you do that to a literal child? No wonder his wife divorced him. What a selfish, spiteful idiot. Agree. That's a lot of time to form a bond beyond a casual relationship. Your son is selfish, thinking his anger towards his ex is more important than your love for the children. He cannot tell you to change your priorities. I understand that your son is hurting, but you're only demonstrating love for the kids. Once again, the father's in the movie Clueless. You divorce wives, not children. Grandma gets it, but dad does not. Grandma, carry on. Family's not necessarily defined by blood. If you and Amy believe your grandma and granddaughter, then you are. Don't let anyone say otherwise. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you or sparked any thoughts, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking stories and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you have a story of your own that you'd like to share, drop it in the comments or send it to us. We'd love to feature it in a future video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you. Welcome back to the channel, dear viewers. Tonight, we delve into a tale that uncovers deep family secrets and sparks a heated conflict. The story is titled "I Discovered My Stepdad Abandoned His Kids and Kept It Secret for Years, Now My Family is in Chaos." Join me as we unravel the events that turned a seemingly perfect family life upside down. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this shocking story. I moved an hour away, started a job over the summer, and became close with a few coworkers. One of them and I have become actual friends outside of the office, and she's integrated me into her friend circle. After getting to know her backstory, Mom was abandoned while pregnant and had to raise 3 kids. We got close, and I consider her a good friend now. She's so sweet and nice. Last weekend, I was over at her mom's house getting ready to go out, and was looking at some pictures on her wall, and I saw one of her younger brothers and a man, and did a double take. He looks exactly like my stepfather, but younger. I tried to find another he was in, but that was it. She saw me staring at it and said that's her father, and I laughed and said he looks like my stepdad. She asked me his name, and I said it, and the color of her face left. She started calling her mom to come to the room, and the next 10 minutes consisted of me awkwardly answering their questions. Turns out my stepdad is her father. I met him when I was 6, so my friend would have been 8, and that's the time he left. He never mentioned having any kids, so it was shocking. It was horrible to hear them cry, and we never went out. I told them that he has a successful business, and maybe they could get money for back child support, but they said they didn't want anything from him. I went home this week, and things have just been awkward. My stepdad is so nice, and literally my only father figure, so to know he abandoned his biological kid is crazy. My stepdad just kept asking me why I'm acting weird, and I didn't say anything at first. My mom pulled me aside, and I told her everything. To my surprise, she didn't react. She said how he lives his life is his business, and I shouldn't judge him. This is coming from a former single mother. I remember her crying over my dad leaving us, and I was disgusted by what she said, so I told her loudly not to speak to me, and she's a hypocrite and stormed out of the house. My stepdad followed me to my car, saying that I needed to come back and apologize to my mom right now, and I told him to go and apologize to the kids he abandoned and listed their names. I told him to take care of his actual children. He looked like he would faint and went back inside the house. My mom has been sending me texts that I need to apologize to my stepdad for being an idiot to him and making him cry for days, and that he raised me and took care of me, and that I shouldn't forget that, and that if he didn't do what he did, I would be the one without a dad and to be grateful. I haven't replied back. Am I really the idiot? You need to apologize? Wow, the goal! You've discovered that your stepfather is not who you thought he was. He and your mom told you a massive lie of omission for your entire life. He and your mom walked away from innocent children he was legally and morally responsible for. The fact that he raised you and cared for you has very little bearing on this new information you've discovered. It's okay to be appalled and take time to process the shock, and for God's sake, you don't need to be the one apologizing, and you are not the idiot. Am I the only one who thinks her mom might have been the other woman who he left his family for? The timing seems suspect, plus her lack of reaction says a lot. Oof! It should go without saying that any parent who abandons their parental responsibilities is an idiot, but your mom? Oh boy, let's just say that if you ever find yourself on a lifeboat with limited food and water, make sure to sit outside pushing distance. Stepdad came into OP's life when she was 6. Her friend would have been 8 then, and that's when he left their family, so it adds up. I mean, it could have been a random chance that they met quickly after, but his willingness to jump into stepdadhood after abandoning his children so wholly also makes me feel like your theory's correct. If OP wants to know the truth, she may want to start with her friend's mom. I cannot imagine her mom or stepdad ever admitting that OP's mom knew, was in on it, or was the other woman. Wow. OP's mom is a cruel, cold woman. How awful to find out that both people who raised you are so selfish. I would hope that her friend would understand that OP isn't the bad guy here, but it may be hard for them to be around the person their father raised when he didn't stick around to raise them. For me personally, if I was the abandoned child, it would be too hard. Like, I couldn't imagine hearing stories about OP doing things with my father that he should have done with me. Update, I talked to mom and stepdad. They're saying the past is none of my business, and that even if it was, screaming to him to take care of his kids isn't the way to go about it, and that I only care about my feelings and no one else, which makes me wrong in this situation. My mom is saying my stepdad didn't do anything wrong to me, so he has nothing to apologize to me about, and I need to make a sincere apology soon. She's saying that I told him about the kids in the worst way possible, and I only said it to hurt him, so it makes me no better than him, and even worse. I'm planning a wedding and deciding everything regarding the guest list. Given the venue's small size, we have a hard cap of people allowed. We can only have 105 people. Anything after that would not be allowed due to fire codes and venue policy. I have an older sister, Mia, whose life is a bit of a mess. She and her latest ex-partner, and the dad of one of her kids, broke up in the last 6 months. She has 4 kids, who are all living at my parents' house for now. We opted not to have a child-free wedding, after there was so much drama about it. Mia's 4 kids, preschoolers to tween, will be at our wedding. She recently got an invite stating her name and her 4 kids' names. She then called me and said, I assume as an adult, I also get a +1. We told her no. She's not in a serious relationship, and she and her kids are already about 5% of our total guest list. Our caterer also doesn't charge less for kids, so we're paying about $400 for those 4 kids to be there. We don't want to pay another $100 for some random that she'd bring. She's not dating anyone, but she said she could easily find a date or bring a friend to have someone to dance with. We told her she has 4 kids there, which should be more than enough, instead of having a +1. My dad is on my side and is tired of her taking up their house. My mom is a little more sympathetic and says I should allow her to have a +1 because that's what you do for adults. Spending $600 on just my sister, her kids, and a date when she's not seeing anyone seriously seems ridiculous. She's pretty ticked off though. Am I being the idiot here? not the idiot. I think you're being very generous in allowing her 4 children to attend, and she had the nerve to ask for an additional person? Wow, she's a bit of a choosy beggar, isn't she? It's your wedding and your money. If she wants to bring a plus one, then let her pay the $100 it's going to be to feed that person. If your mom is all for it, then she can pay for your sister to have a plus one. It's really cute that she wants to wine and dine someone at your expense, a person you've never met, and that she's not in a relationship. The wedding and reception are about the married couple after all. Who does she expect to babysit her children while she's dancing anyway? Are other people going to have to forego the dancing and babysit so she can have a good time? She can hire a babysitter and leave the kids at home and get a plus one. Or she can bring her kids and no plus one. Let her choose. You win either way. She's broke, so there are no babysitters, and I'm not even expecting to get a gift from her. She didn't get a gift from my other sibling last year because money was too tight. I honestly don't care about the gift thing, but I'm already paying roughly $500 for her and her family, and an extra $100 just feels unreasonable given she's already bringing 4 extra guests. My partner and I are paying for the entire wedding ourselves. Then that's your answer. No means no, and you shouldn't have to justify it to anyone. It's your wedding and your money. Don't let anyone bully you into doing something you don't want to do. Your sister will be fine without a plus 5. My brother has 2 kids, ages young teen and tween, with his ex. They were high school sweethearts who had kids young, never married, and split when the kids were still little. They mostly always shared custody of the kids, but for about 8 months in 2017, the kids were primarily with my brother because his ex was homeless. She got herself together again, and she got married in 2020. Her husband has 3 or maybe 4 kids, and ever since she remarried, she's been asking my brother to include her stepkids in stuff that he does with my niece and nephew, like when he took them to Disney or when he took them to the aquarium, etc. My brother has always told her no and ignored her attempts to get him more involved. The kids don't like their step-siblings very much or their mom's husband when they do see him. It sounds like he's mostly absent, so they've never wanted them included in time with their dad. Lately, she's decided that since my brother isn't giving in, she'd focus on me and ask me to do these things with the kids. My husband, kids, and I often do things with my brother and the kids. She knows this. She asked me in person a couple of times if I'd like to bring her stepkids along with us or watch out for them. I told her no. I told my brother. He told her to knock it off. Then a couple of weeks ago, my nephew came to me and said his mom wanted him and his sister to ask me to bring the stepkids along to a water park trip we had planned for May. He said they didn't want them to come, but his mom would be up his butt about it if he didn't ask. He said she wouldn't accept it when they told her I wouldn't say yes. So, I told him I would speak to his mom. So, I called her and she started as though I had already said yes. I told her I was calling to say no and stop asking. She told me I should give it a shot and that the kids are missing out and how great it would be for my niece and nephew. She said she'd have them ready and introduce us better before the weekend so the kids and I know each other. She said it would give the kids time to do stuff with their siblings. I told her that she needs to quit trying to pawn her stepkids off of my brother and me because she's been told no each time and it's getting closer to harassment and it's unfair to drag the kids in the middle. She told me she was looking out for her stepkids and I'm a nasty witch. My brother is so tired of her, but he can't do anything other than ignore her request. He's tried, but she doesn't want to listen. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So, she expects others to do her parenting, give her a break from her parenting, and pay for strangers' kids. Just because she said so? But she had a good reason from her perspective, so others should put up with it? The level of egocentrism is off the charts. This woman clearly does not want children, so why does she have some? And why did she marry a man with kids? Be prepared for the ding-dong ditch my kids approach of leaving them on your doorstep and driving off. When that happens, let her know in no uncertain terms. You will call the cops for child abandonment. A Ring camera might be a good idea, too. It sounds exhausting, but you're doing the right thing by holding firm on your boundaries. I can understand that it's hard for the mom to see her family not get along, but she chose to marry someone with children that her existing children don't seem to like. The best thing she can do would be to stop forcing everyone to be one big happy family and just give her kids space to come around on their own terms. My husband, 51, and I, 48, female, have 6 children. Our teen, Gianna, is a junior in high school, and our son, Riker, is in 7th grade. The kids are starting to have their school dances. The 7th grade dance is later this month, and the junior banquet is in early May. We've gone shopping for dress clothes for all the dances. We bought Gianna's dress a few weeks ago. Gianna has usually been a good kid throughout her life. This school year has been slightly harder than others, though. Around 2 months ago, we got a call from Gianna's choir teacher saying that Gianna and a few other altos were making insulting jokes about some of the new pieces she introduced, including an Urdu song and a song from the Honduras. We talked to Gianna about her actions, and we made her write an apology to her teacher and write a 5-paragraph essay on why it's important to respect music from other cultures. Riker has a friend from his baseball team who is Honduran. He was born here, but his mom was born in Honduras, and his dad is mixed. When Riker heard about this, he was quite mad, and he asked if he could have his friend come over and teach her about the culture there. We allowed this, and he came over with his parents, and they made food, and Riker and his friend talked about sports and music there. Gianna was very clearly not enjoying it, but we made her engage anyways. Our daughter and a group of her friends, including her boyfriend, got in trouble last week for making the same jokes again. We took her phone to investigate where this hatred could come from. Riker had his friends over for a sleepover the night we found out about this. During dinner, the boys were talking about how their coach would never let them live through it if they bullied a kid or made that kind of joke. My husband and I tried helping guide them through their feelings, like asking them about the diverse athletes they liked. Gianna was hanging out with friends at the mall that night, some of whom were doing dress shopping for the upcoming dance. Unfortunately, our son and the boys decided to use this as an opportunity to trash the dress, using mud, drinks, and cutting a few holes in the dress. We found out when Gianna came home, entered her room, and saw the dress. The boys were laughing, and Riker said they did it because Gianna didn't deserve to go to the banquet, saying how there could be kids that looked like his Honduran friend. We told Riker we were trying our best to educate her in a very white town. We're all so white. We told him that this was the wrong way to take out his anger, and that as a result, he couldn't go to a 7th grade dance. Riker told us to shut up and spent the rest of his night in his room with the boys. Riker texted my parents and siblings, as well as my in-laws, and a few have called us and come to his defense, saying he's just a kid who was trying to cope with anger. So, now we're unsure if we are in the wrong. Am I the idiot? Edit. We haven't decided if Gianna's allowed to her dance yet, but she's already had her phone taken away as a punishment, though. You are the idiot. I don't understand how destroying a dress comes with a bigger punishment than getting in trouble for the same crime twice. What he did was wrong, but the fact that your daughter's still getting to go to her dance and out with the friends also seems like the wrong response, so I can understand why he's angry. Yeah, like is the daughter some golden child or what? Maybe the son sees the lack of true punishment or consequences as her getting away with it and is understandably angry about it. OP really messed up here, and their half-baked solution is only going to make things worse. I agree, an appropriate punishment would be making him pay back the cost of the dress or a new one, but I honestly wouldn't punish him. I'd explain how what he did was wrong, but you're proud of him for sticking up for his friends against his awful sister. And you are the idiot for even allowing your daughter to still go to the dance. Obviously, whatever you're doing with your daughter isn't changing her mind. Maybe take a look at yourself and how you contributed to raising a brat. My parents are having people from their home country come for a visit. They told me that for the 4 weeks that the guests were here, I was to vacate my room and sleep in the basement on an inflatable mattress. I, female 26, have only been living with them because they insist. I have a job and have been working and saving money since I was 16. I didn't need their help to pay for college, and I paid them rent for my room, as well as buy groceries and help out around the house. I told them that if they wanted a guest room, then I could move out. Several condo developments in my area have units ready for immediate possession, and I have almost enough to buy one outright. I have no debt, thanks to living at home for the last 4 years. They say that I'm being ungrateful and argumentative. I don't think it's fair to kick me out of a room I rent for nearly a month. They didn't even offer me the choice not to pay for the month I don't have any room. Not the idiot, but at 26, you don't ask to move out. You sign a lease and then tell them the date you're moving out, and make sure you already have important stuff: computer, laptop, passport, driving license, social security card, etc., safe, before you tell them, just on the off chance that they throw everything away while you're at work. If you're paying rent, you have a right to your room. Imagine if a roommate asked you to pay rent, but also give up your room. Or a landlord. An actual unrelated landlord wouldn't be able to force you to stay in a different unit or room than the one you rent for their guest. Consider this a sign and a blessing to move out. At 26, you're too old to have to put up with this kind of behavior from your family. And that, dear viewers, is how a chance discovery led to the unraveling of a long-held family secret. If you were captivated by this tale and want to hear more stories of family conflicts and unexpected revelations, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts and similar experiences in the comments below. Have you ever faced a family drama that took you by surprise? Until next time, remember, understanding and communication are key to navigating the complexities of family relationships. Welcome back to our channel, where we delve into the most extraordinary tales of love, loss, and unexpected reunions. Today, we have a story that is sure to tug at your heartstrings and leave you speechless. Imagine discovering that the woman you left behind was carrying your child, and now, with a terminal diagnosis, you have one last chance to make things right. This is the incredible story of Alex, titled, "I Left My Girlfriend, Only to Find Out She Had My Son, and Now I'm Dying." Join me as we explore Alex's emotional journey from despair to redemption, and the unexpected twist that changes everything. Alex stared dejectedly out the window of his luxurious apartment. He achieved everything he dreamt of and even more, but he had no friends because there can be no friends in business. He was alone. His parents died almost 10 years ago. He was not married. At 40, he had no person to hug. The phone on the table rang. Yes. Mr. Wright, you have a deal at 3 o'clock. Can you come? Yes, I'll come. Of course, he will be on this deal. A week ago, after a painful treatment, when he recovered a little, the doctor called him and said, "Alex, unfortunately the treatment didn't work. You need to try another direction." How? And why did I suffer these 2 months then? Unfortunately, it happens. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 courses to figure out which one is the most effective. No, I don't want to participate in your experiments. He slammed the phone on the table and it shattered. A few days later, he put his business up for sale. He decided that he would spend the time he had left traveling in resorts, and he would leave to die in some mountain village. He himself didn't know why in a mountain village. The doctor said 3 months, maybe a little more, unless a miracle happens. And a miracle can happen only in one case. If he agrees to a new treatment and it has not yet been fully studied, there is progress. This treatment helps people, but not all and not at all stages. He then asked the doctor, "What are the chances that it will help me?" "I'll tell you honestly, the chances are very small because, as I said, the treatment has not been fully tested." And why do I need it? To once again hope and then lose it? Not. Yesterday, he walked around the city on foot and was glad that he could still do it and was not lying on a hospital bed. He stopped at the church and some old woman immediately approached him. "Help me." He handed her some banknotes. Old woman looked at him in surprise. No one has ever given her that much money. When he was about to leave, old woman took him by the sleeve. When you do good deeds, dying is not so scary because many people are grateful to you. He left and the words of the old woman still sounded in his head. He decided that when he got home, he would pack all his warm clothes and take them to the homeless shelter. Once he was one of the sponsors who created the shelter. People who had something bad happen in their lives could be there. Not homeless people chose their own path, but those who needed help. Someone was deceived with an apartment. Someone ran away from her husband. Someone else had some other reason, and this place was never empty. Alex looked at the time. More than 4 hours remained before the meeting, so he decided to lie down. He didn't sleep well tonight. He sat down on the couch and immediately fell asleep. He probably fell asleep because suddenly the events of the past about 10 years ago stood before his eyes. 10 years ago, he met a woman named Wendy. Soon he was ready to make her an offer of marriage. Wendy worked as a nurse and lived with her mother. In general, she was an ordinary woman, but she told him that she only wanted his money, but he laughed in her face. What money? Wendy is a holy woman, but it turned out that he was very wrong about this. On the day when he was going to propose to her, she asked him for a large sum of money. He then replied that he would think about it and left her. He left, never to return. She called him the next day only once. He didn't answer the phone and she didn't try to contact him again. Perhaps he remembered for so long only Wendy of all the women he had, and he had a lot of them. He loved her. Alex woke up an hour later. He felt good. If he didn't know that he was sick, he would have not believed anyone, and the only change in the body was that he often required rest. During the day, a man could sleep 3 or 4 times. In the evening, after Alex returned from the meeting, he began to pack his things. Mrs. Hardy peeked into the room. Alex, I'm here. Mrs. Hardy, I told you not to come here again. I don't want you to starve to death. Alex smiled. The kind woman had been his housekeeper for more than 5 years. She immediately began to treat him with maternal care. She fought with him for a long time so that he would have breakfast in the morning. They even fought. Alex told her that he decides what to do, not her. But of course, Mrs. Hardy won, and he immediately began to eat porridge, scrambled eggs, and everything that was given to him in the morning. She was right. Alex felt better, and he was not tired, as if he had recharged since the morning. And what are you doing? I decided to take some things to the shelter. This is good, but I don't understand. Will you take all your things there, and what will you wear in winter? In winter, I won't need anything anymore. Mrs. Hardy pretended that she didn't hear his words, because she replied, That's right, you buy yourself new clothes. She went into the room and began to help Alex pack his things. It took them an hour to do this. Then they had dinner for another hour, and Alex felt that he was dead tired. He decided to take things in the morning, and now he's gone to bed. In the morning, he was greeted at the shelter almost with hugs. Mr. Wright, where have you been? We haven't seen you for a long time. Mr. Heyman, I have a lot to do. By the way, you need to send someone to unload the car. I brought you things and food. Of course, we will do it now. Come to my office, where we will drink tea. They sat, talked, and drank tea. There was a knock on the door. Mr. Heyman, can I come in? Come on, Paul, we have guests. A young man entered the office. He worked in the shelter as a lawyer. He was paid a salary from sponsorship money, and he helped those who were in a difficult situation. He greeted Alex and turned to the director. I came about the new girl. Seems like a real crime there. Alex raised an eyebrow in surprise, and the director hurried to explain. Recently, a woman came to us. Good and positive, but her husband repeatedly beat her, and now she ran away from him, and he doesn't give her the child, and besides, he burned their documents. What are the police doing? Nothing. He works for the police. But this is wrong. This woman has nothing. Everything in the family is registered to the husband. He immediately sued for the deprivation of her parental rights, and he found false witnesses who testified that she was a bad mother. Now, we are looking for anything that can help us, and she has no relatives. She has no one who could help her. Alex suddenly thought that he had a very large and beautiful apartment. Is this woman really good, and does she really need help? Yes, she once worked as a nurse, but then her husband ordered her to quit. It so happened that at first, he fenced her off from everything, and then he began to mock her. Can I talk to her? I have an idea. Of course. Paul, please invite Wendy to join us. Wendy was a nurse. What a coincidence. But there was no coincidence, because it was the same Wendy with whom he was in love. Alex sank into a chair. She has lost a lot of weight, and her eyes are completely red. Apparently, she cries a lot. Hello, Mr. Heyman. Do you have any news? One person wants to talk to you. She turned around and froze. Alex? Alex turned to the surprised director. Can you leave us? It turns out we know each other. Mr. Heyman was surprised by this fact, but he was also delighted. He felt genuinely sorry for this woman. She told him about her life, in which there was little good. Her mom died. Wendy couldn't find money for her treatment. At that time, Wendy was pregnant, but she refused to talk about the father of her child. She wanted to finish everything, but the same policeman saved her. He saved her from depression. True, he demanded in return that Wendy marry him. Her husband was 22 years older than her. Alex was silent for a long time, then said, I have only one question for you. Why did you ask for money then? Wendy looked up at him. My mother was sick. I urgently needed money for her treatment. Is your mom recovered? Wendy shook her head as a tear rolled down her cheek. No, I didn't find the money. Alex suddenly realized what a bastard he was. Why didn't you explain to me why you needed the money? She shrugged. You ran away right away. Then I tried to call you, but that is already in the past. What did you want to talk about? I want to help you. I don't really want to accept your help, but I have to do it. Not for me, but for the sake of my son, who is also your son. He almost lost consciousness. What did you say? What you heard. A week after you went missing, I found out I was pregnant. Naturally, I didn't look for you to tell the good news. You would think that I want money from you. He was silent. Of course, she was absolutely right about everything. There's no excuse for him, because that is exactly what he would have thought. An hour later, everyone who could help arrived at the shelter. Alex called the best lawyer and also called an acquaintance who was indebted to him and at the same time was a friend of the chief of police. The thought that he had a son gave him strength. He also realized that his love for Wendy had not disappeared. He just convinced himself that love is no more. He left the shelter in the afternoon. Wendy saw him off. Alex, I heard that you have health problems. He looked at her cheerfully. Yes, I have problems, but now I know that I am not alone. I know to whom I will leave my apartment and money. Don't you have any chance? Tears streamed down the woman's cheeks again. How to say to you? The doctors offered me one experimental treatment, but there are also few chances. Did you refuse this treatment? Yes, I don't see the point in suffering. For what or who? I repeat that the chance is very small. Forget it. You have to do this for your son, for us. You are not alone. We really need you. He looked at her carefully, said nothing, and got into the car. And when he left the shelter, he took out his phone and called the doctor. This is Alex. I agreed to try. Now I have a meaning in this life. A year has passed. Wendy sat in Alex's luxurious apartment and talked to her son. Max, why are you so nervous? Mom, do you think Dad will agree to come with me tomorrow? I have such important competitions. Max, he is only being discharged from the hospital. We don't know how he feels yet. Mom, I understand. But Dad was very cheerful on the phone. Literally 2 months ago, they heard from the doctor what they had been waiting for so long. Everything worked out. Now a good rehabilitation and you can return to normal life. Alex was exhausted from the heavy treatments. He looked at the doctor in disbelief. Are you serious? There is nowhere more serious. Of course, you still have a long rehabilitation ahead of you. But I can already say now that we won. He didn't understand why his eyes were suddenly so hot. Yes, for the first time in his adult life, he cried. When he calmed down, he was able to call Wendy. We won! He listened with a smile as Wendy, Max, and Mrs. Hardy cheered at the other end of the line. This is his family and they are happy for him. Max saw his father first. Dad! The plane had landed 15 minutes ago and Max was jumping up and down in anticipation. He rushed to Alex who hugged him and then Wendy came up to him. She wrapped her arms around him with a sigh. Hi, Alex. Alex hugged the two of them and even closed his eyes at how good he felt. He is so happy now that words can't express it. He looked at Max's dad. I have a competition tomorrow. Will you come? Max. Wendy looked sternly at her son and he lowered his head guiltily and Alex smiled. Don't yell at the child. Son, of course I'll come and I will even scream and cheer for you. And now let's go home. I got very hungry. I'm so fed up with this hospital food. I want homemade food. Wendy laughed. Mrs. Hardy has been cooking in the kitchen since morning. She's going to fatten you up after the hospital and she won't even let us into the kitchen. And they went to the exit, hugging tightly. Thank you for watching this emotional roller coaster of a story. If you were moved by Alex's journey and the incredible twists of fate, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heart-wrenching tales. What would you do if you found yourself in Alex's situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more stories that touch the heart and inspire us all. Until next time, take care and cherish every moment with your... Welcome back, everyone! Today, we're diving into a story that highlights the struggles of balancing generosity and dealing with the unreasonable demands of others. Imagine wanting to give your child a special gift, only to face unexpected obstacles from your ex's family. This is a gripping tale of a mother who wanted to surprise her son with a car for his birthday, but things took a shocking turn when her ex's family got involved. Let's unravel this nerve-wracking story titled, I wanted to buy my son a car for his birthday, but my ex's family made outrageous demands. Let's get started. I had my son way too young with my then boyfriend. We split up when he moved away for college and became an absent father when he returned for the summers. He became more active when he moved back after graduating, and we started doing 50-50 custody. I was 24 then and went to community college and got into sonography school, and I'm now an obstetric sonographer. During that time, it came out that my ex had never graduated and was in enormous debt from gambling during his time away. It explains why with a full-ride scholarship and a degree in a high-paying field, he was working at the mall. Once I got a job, I was able to upgrade my standard of living and provide a better life for me and my son. He's now nearly adult and entering senior year soon, and I want him to get a lovely gift to celebrate his birthday this summer. I asked him earlier this year when we talked about cars, what car he would want, and he said a 2023 Camry. While we're financially well off and don't struggle, I know he thinks buying a car is out of our budget, so he didn't suspect a thing. Here's the issue, I was speaking to my ex's sister, whom I am semi-close to, and I brought up the idea to her. She seemed excited, but then said I shouldn't. She said it makes her brother look bad since he doesn't have a car, and it would crush him to know that his son has a brand new paid-off car while he barely scrapes by. I told her that's not my issue and that it's not my fault he doesn't have his life together. He's 33 years old and still lives at home, doesn't have a car, and constantly switches retail jobs after spending weeks stretching out and watching orientation videos as long as he can. My son told me he recently spent almost 2 months watching Home Depot orientation videos and then quitting the first week on the floor. He doesn't want to work hard, so why should I feel bad? After a few days, she calls me and says she has an amazing compromise. She told my ex that I had planned to buy a special gift for my son this summer and asked if he was willing to pitch in. He offered $80, and she's going to add another $80 for a total of $160. Then we could tell our son we bought it together and he feels like his dad pitched in. This is for a $34,000 car. I told her no thanks, I have it covered, and she got upset and said that this could bring my son closer to his father, since they don't have much of a relationship, and not to be a selfish idiot. Ever since I said no, she called me twice, calling me an idiot and saying I should either let him chip in or not buy it at all. Am I the idiot? Ha ha ha, is she kidding? Not the idiot. So, she doesn't want her brother to feel bad that his son has a car and he doesn't? OMG, they need to grow up. He does not work to improve his life, it sounds like, and that's not for you or your son to feel bad about. And now they want to chip in a couple of $100 on a $34,000 car and try to make it sound like they bought it too? Please, your son is smart enough, he would see through that anyway. Also, if he isn't close to his son, that sounds like that's on him, as well. Good for you for working hard to give him a good life, you don't owe them anything. Yeah, $160, how generous of them. Has this man even paid child support all these years? Oh, he was just busy gambling. Dad can suck it up and reap what he's sown. His sister's crossing a major line, thinking that $160 is enough. If it was a difference of even $1,000 or $2,000, I'd maybe entertain it. But what they're proposing is insulting to the work you've put in. LMFAO, $80, we got a big spender for an ex. The gift that you worked hard for, not ex, not his sister, it's your moment with your son. If dad and sister-in-law want a moment, well, they can work for it, as you did. I say again, your son is a smart kid, he sees your ex lacking, he's not gonna believe for a minute that your ex significantly contributed to the car. Here's the other thing, say son believes ex paid for half, the ex could turn around and guilt the son into lending him the car, because he sacrificed so much to help pay for it. Go with the truth, it's the best option in the long run. Congratulations on your son's graduation, and tell your ex to buy some fuzzy dice or whatever, but remind your ex that these are a prop and he can't gamble with them. My wife is flying to see family for just 4 quick days this weekend, and the airport is 1 hour away. She returns back and lands at 10:30 a.m. on Independence Day. We have kids, and I want to take them to our town's wet parade and fun activities that morning for the celebration. We didn't make part of last year's celebration, and I was looking forward to this year's. She asked me to drop her at the airport. Initially I was all for it, but then learning about her return time, this is where the disagreement began. Our family car is in the shop, but we have a loaner from the dealer. I asked her to think about driving herself, so we could celebrate the festivities, and she instantly got mad. That'll cost us hundreds more dollars, parking is $8 a day. The loaner isn't ours, what if it sells while I'm away? Then they wait. Why can't you support me through this and not be selfish? Who's selfish here? The festivities go on all day. I'm only asking for 2 hours, 9 to 3 p.m. is the duration of the festivities. These were some of the statements immediately made. She even said, my dad wouldn't hesitate to support his wife. I think her dad would shrug and say, just drive yourself. Am I the idiot because I want to take the kids to our town's 4th of July celebrations and would prefer my wife drive herself to and from the airport? Not the idiot. Airport pickup and drop off is a luxury, either my wife and I offer the other, if the stars align just right, otherwise we hire a cab. Loaners don't sell while they're being loaned. That's not how the process works. Parking wouldn't be hundreds of dollars, it would be $32. Having said that, you could pick her up by 11, be home by noon, and still attend the festivities for 3 hours, in ideal conditions. Barring any flight delays, traffic jams or small kids' meltdowns, there are a ton of things that can go wrong, especially with the kids in the car. Anyone with children knows that a 2-hour round trip on Google Maps doesn't equate to a 2-hour round trip in reality. It's unreasonable for the wife to make that demand when she can just drive herself, with much less of an imposition on her time than it would be on his. I agree with every word, OP isn't some deadbeat dad, wanting to hang out with his buddies on the 4th. He wants to take the kids to a kid-centric event. I'm a mom, and if I were in this situation, I'd tell my husband, have fun, I'll try to join you when I get home. In my honest opinion, the wife's being extremely selfish and not thinking of her kids or her husband. The wife needs to suck it up and drive herself. Don't back down, OP, you're the only one in this situation thinking of the kids. Take them to the parade and have a great time. This is so stupid. My girlfriend thinks I'm an idiot, so I want some second opinions. We're both quite serious tea drinkers, being from the UK, at least 3 cups a day. I have mine with 1 spoon of sugar, she has no sugar. We've been dating for a year now. In the first month of dating, things were great, and she made my tea properly. Then she slowly started to forget, and made us both cups with no sugar. I gently reminded her that I like it with 1 sugar, but she wouldn't remember, and kept making me non-sweet tea. So I decided to just make both of our teas going forward throughout the day to save the hassle. However, lately, I've been tired of having to make all this tea, and I asked her if she could make me a cup once in a while. I don't think it's fair that I make her nice teas, and she can't return the favor. Today she made me tea with no sugar, once again, and I got fed up and asked her why she doesn't add sugar to mine. It feels deliberate, to which she told me she forgets, and that's just how she does it, and I can add my own sugar after. So I said that wasn't the point, and moving forward, until she can make my tea nicely, and take my taste into account, I will no longer be making her tea. I remember her little dietary quirks, and it just feels off that she won't remember this for me. She says it's stupid for me to go on strike about making her tea, and I'm weaponizing it, and it takes 2 minutes. However, I'm tired of making her perfect tea, while she doesn't even put any effort into mine. Am I the idiot? People are gonna get onto you with, it's just sugar, but I get your point. It's the effort. You take the time to remember what she likes, and do that if you're making for both of you, and she doesn't return the favor. It feels lopsided to you, hence the question, you are not the idiot. Exactly, they've been dating for a year now. It's not like it's some complicated Starbucks order. It's 1 spoon of sugar. I'd honestly start making the tea, but putting 1 sugar in her tea as well. If she needs help remembering your preference for something as simple as tea, why should you go to the trouble of it? It's a simple lack of respect. If he wasn't British, I would have suggested that as well, but he's probably too darn polite for stooping to the level the rest of the world would applaud, Canadians probably being the exception. As an American who used to drink sweet tea, I cannot relate. LOL, we drink tea syrup in this area. No sugar? Get out, OP. You can have a tea war if you like. But the real question here is a fairly fundamental relationship question. Do you want to remain in a relationship with this person? My partner and I are typical sleep-deprived parents of 3 children, ages toddler to infant. I'm a stay-at-home mom while my partner commutes for work, and depending on which site he's at, can be on the road for more than 6 hours a day. When necessary, he'll get a hotel room closer to the job site. Getting up with the children during the night has always been my responsibility. The logic behind this is that his sleep should be the priority due to the dangers of driving while drowsy. I've always accepted this without complaint. However, since the birth of our youngest, my partner's begun to accuse me of intentionally disrupting his sleep if the baby wakes him up at night. This past week, my partner had a few long days and was gone from early Wednesday morning until late Friday night. Please, no judgment, but I was so busy, exhausted, and overwhelmed during that time that I didn't get the opportunity to shower. I felt disgusting. It took ages for the children to fall asleep with the excitement of Daddy being home. But around midnight Friday night, I finally got the opportunity to treat myself to a shower. I hoped the baby would stay asleep, but if he didn't, there was finally another adult to cover for me. And as the next day was Saturday, there was no commute to worry about. Well, of course the baby woke up, and my partner was absolutely livid. I was accused of being selfish, vindictive, unsupportive, and using the baby as a weapon to punish my partner for getting more sleep than me. I was called every curse word in the book, and when I asked why my partner at no point tried to pick up or soothe the baby, I was told that he doesn't have tits to put the baby back to sleep. So, what would be the point? At first, I was equally angry at my partner for choosing to lash out at me instead of caring for the baby. However, now that I've calmed down, I've started worrying that I was wrong. While my partner's accusations were wildly off base, I may have been an idiot to just assume it would be okay for the baby to wake him, especially when the baby's nighttime care has historically been my responsibility. So, am I the idiot for assuming it would be okay to let the baby wake up my partner because I desperately needed a shower? Not the idiot. Even though you're a stay-at-home mom, that doesn't mean you're the only one with parental responsibilities. Letting your partner sleep while you care for the baby at night so he's not driving drowsy is a fine concept, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have to do anything ever at nighttime. And the fact that it was a night when he didn't have to drive the next day is the icing on the cake. Taking a shower for the first time in several days while there's another adult around is not a selfish act or weaponizing your baby. It's basic human hygiene that you shouldn't have to apologize for. Tell your partner it's time to start being a parent. How would he do this without tits? It's common knowledge that women change diapers with their tits. I'd go so far as to call it weaponized incompetence. Sure, he doesn't have breasts, but sticking the baby on the boob isn't the only way to get them back to sleep. And even if it was, does he still not have a responsibility to at least comfort his child until the mom returns to feed the baby? Come on now, stop acting like you're helpless in this situation. I bet he got perfect long sleep time Wednesday and Thursday nights away, while you were doing 100% of childcare and couldn't even get a shower for yourself. You've given him way too much of a break on care duties if he doesn't even know how to pick up his baby to soothe it. Girl, stop allowing this person to procreate using your uterus. Please stop. That level of aggression would be an absolute deal breaker for me. This happened over a year ago, but this situation has still affected my family and my mom won't stop getting on my husband's and mine, case even now. My father had diabetes and his health was deteriorating fast. He was in the hospital and then got out. After he got out, he was weak and was trying to rest at home. I come from a big family with a lot of siblings. One of my sisters travels all through Europe and is frequently moving. I'm in the US and I haven't been back to Europe in over a decade, but I talk a lot on the phone with them. We'll call my sister Anna. Anna suddenly moved into my parents' house with her husband and 8 children for an unknown period of time and for reasons no one knows. Well, she had nowhere else to go, apparently. My mom is the closest with her and has always been sympathetic towards her, so she's fine with her being there. My dad was exhausted, coming home from the hospital just a day or 2 ago. My husband was talking to him on the phone and heard all these kids screaming and making noises. He asked if everything's okay. My father just said he's tired, overwhelmed, can't take it anymore and just wants to rest. My dad talks to my brother who lives there and talks about the environment in the house. My brother said it was a disaster and pretty noisy since the kids were running everywhere. My mom, however, said that it's not a big deal and not that noisy. Well, we all just had a feeling my dad was going to die any day now and these were his last months alive. My husband and I felt bad for my dad and thought he deserved peace in his last moments. My husband asked to speak to my mother and she said, no, not now. So my husband asked to speak to Anna's husband. He said, if you don't leave this house by 7:00 p.m., then I'll pay for a rental home where he can rest his final days. It's not okay for this man to work all his life and he can't even die peacefully in his own home. I'll be calling back to make sure you've left. They tried to talk back and downplay everything. But my husband really put his foot down and ultimately they left. After about 2 days, my father had to go back to the hospital and died. My mother's still upset with me and my husband that he kicked Anna and her family out. She still comments to my husband and acts like we were really out of line and rude. I want to add that Anna was and still is building a new home near my parents' house. So they have some money. Am I the idiot for letting my husband kick my sister's family out of my parents' house? Edit. I just want to add since there's a little confusion that this was our last resort since it's pretty big. But my mom didn't want to speak to us at all and always sides with Anna. She was babysitting the kids and ignored my father. So he was pretty much by himself after coming out of the ICU. But my dad was so weak and was mentally done. When my husband inquired about Anna's husband, he said, "Don't worry, it'll all work itself out." You are the idiot. It was not your husband's place to dictate what happens in other people's homes. You crossed the line. And how do you know that the stress of your sister and the children moving out didn't hurt your father in his dying moments? Why would he want the end of his life filled with family strife? Your inappropriate actions may have caused him more hurt. You fools. Not only that, you hurt the living people who were the ones that were there with him in his dying hours. You caused more stress for your mom, siblings, and nieces and nephews than necessary. Wow, how selfish of you. Imagine not being able to cook your own meals after a lifetime of cooking, not being able to drive a car, sign your name, write or wash your body, or convey your thoughts clearly. Your one strong body is a shell of itself. You have trouble walking or picking things up. Now imagine how exhausting that must feel, day in and day out. Then add 8 noisy young children and an unsupportive wife to that scenario, when you're just trying to survive. You and your husband are not the idiot. At least you tried to give your father some peace in his final days. Sorry for your loss. Agreed, your husband did the right thing. I've dealt with serious health issues, and I can't imagine having a bunch of kids around. When you're suffering, all you want is to be left alone in peace. Your mom probably needed their presence to distract her. That's my guess. Regardless, all you can do now is to say, "Yes, Mom, we know. You've told us multiple times." And change the subject. As we immerse ourselves in today's tale, I invite you to reflect on your own experiences with family dynamics and the challenges they may bring. Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to Heartstrings and Home for more heartfelt stories that resonate with the soul. Together, let's explore the enduring power of love, resilience, and the bonds that define us. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you or sparked any thoughts, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking stories and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you have a story of your own that you'd like to share, drop it in the comments or send it to us. We'd love to feature it in a future video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you